What was the stupidest thing someone has asked you 100% seriously? I work in a toll booth and was working on the westbound side. A lady drove up to my booth really mad, which is par for the course, but I digress. She told me that every day she takes this route home from work, and every single day, the sun is directly in her eyes. Well, of course, she's driving westbound at 6 p.m. When I mentioned this, she brushed it off and asked, well, can't you change the direction of the road or at least put a cover over it? I can't be the only person who is bothered by this. Just a second. Dear madam, we'll make the world revolve around you. It just takes a second. I was at my cottage looking at the stars at night with a friend and she turned to me and asked, are there countries in the sky? I didn't know what she meant, so I asked her to explain, and then she said, well, are there any countries in the world that are just kind of in the sky? I was so confused that I just sat there in silence, but eventually she says, I mean, is there land on the earth in the sky where people live that are countries? At that point I just gave up and said no, and she replied, oh, okay, so reassuringly. My 21-year-old sister once asked my entire family at dinner, if nuns don't have sex, where do they get more nuns? That takes the cake for me. How imagine being 21 and not knowing that all nuns are clones of the original nun. For context, I work in a phone shop. Customer, what is this? Hands me his bill. Me, this is your bill. Customer, but I already paid it. Me, well then, don't worry about it. Customer, no, I mean I paid it last month. Me, oh, this is just your second bill then. Customer, but I already paid it. Me, last month's bill. Yes, this is your next bill. Customer, you mean they keep sending these every month? Me, yes, that's what a phone contract is. You signed the contract for 2 years, didn't you? Customer, yeah. Me, so you will get a bill each month for 2 years then. Customer, what ARIP off. He legit thought he would only get a single $90 bill for his brand new iPhone over the entire 2 years of his contract. Whoa there, buddy, just imagine this guy signing a lease for an apartment. Waited on a woman who asked me what kind of meat was in our beef taco salad. Lady, what kind of meat is in your beef taco salad? Me, beef. L, what kind of beef? Me, beef. Ground beef seasoned with taco seasoning. L, no, I mean, is it pork or chicken? Me, mom, it's beef. It's from a cow. It's beef. What day of the week is Good Friday on? Do you mean what date? No, what day of the week? It was on a Thursday last year. No. I've gotten a similar one to this. Isn't it cool how Good Friday always lands on a Friday? In his defense, it clicked in his head a second later. If it was possible to even land a plane on Japan because it's so small. Because, you know, maps are a one description of the world : working for a rafting company, I'm asked far too often at the end of the float if we are back at the start. Rivers don't flow in goddamn circles. Reminds me of a story my dad once told me. Some of his friends were camping near a river and one of them got in a truck tire and floated downstream. Then he got out, ran all the way around the camp and got back in the water. When he passed the camp again, he said, look guys, it flows in a circle. One of them actually believed it, got in truck tire and floated away. I once asked someone to look to the left of something on her screen. She asked my left or your left. We were both facing the same direction. You can pick. I have a buzz cut. A guy at work recently asked, dead seriously, do you cut your hair? Or does it only grow that long? I got a haircut with bangs when I was around 13, and when I showed up to school the next day, one of my classmates asked me how I grew them so fast. Not me, but our safari guide in South Africa said he once heard a woman ask her husband, honey, is that the same moon we see in Texas? Not asked, but in high school show choir, we took a trip to Toronto from the US for a competition. One girl thought Toronto was in Florida and only packed bathing suits, shorts, and crop tops. Laughs in Canadian. My current boss asked me to make the pages smaller so she can see all of them. She had Excel zoomed into 200% and thought I was just sending things in font 46. This person has been in her position for 12 years. Ugh. This is my favorite one. because I'm not convinced this isn't my boss. Someone was placing an order once at my family's restaurant, and they had asked me for a side of French fries without the potatoes. I assumed she was joking, so I laughed. She wasn't joking. She got offended and left the restaurant, lol. First day working a tech support job. I answer a phone call from a woman whose laptop won't turn on. She's at the airport trying to get some work done and is very frustrated because she had been working for several hours during a layover and the laptop suddenly shut off. I asked her if she had the laptop plugged in when it shut off, or if she was just running it on the battery. It can be plugged in? I thought it was supposed to be wireless. I honestly thought I was being pranked because I was the new guy. After a lengthy pause to decide if this was a serious call, I advised her to try plugging it in. The laptop turned on. She was amazed that it didn't just recharge itself when she wasn't using it. I used to work at a sub shop and a lady asked me how much bigger is the 8-inch compared to the 6-inch. I replied with 2 inches. That was that. Literally had a guy ask me yesterday if I hit the cashback button, does the money come out of my account? Dude was like 30 and he thought cashback was just free money, I guess. Do we have the ability to open digital files? This is the guy who would print PDFs from our server then scan the print to his email so he could save them to his desktop. Ugh. I'm in my 40s but have a lot of co-workers in their 60s. I send them PDFs, and they always print and then scan them. Guaranteed. When I was a kid, I asked my dad for a tuna fish sandwich without a tuna fish. He handed me 2 pieces of bread. To this day, I've never seen him laugh harder than he did the first time he told me this story. He said I was about 4. While holding a container of molten salt. Do you know if there's sodium in salt? I mean, I know there's iodine to prevent retardation, but is there sodium? It must have been hard not to respond to that retardation bit. In high school, we were warming up before a baseball game one evening and some really ominous, dark clouds started rolling in. One of my teammates very seriously asked, is that a storm or is it just night coming? I will never forget that. This one's my favorite. In my driver's ed class, the instructor was discussing cardinal directions. He asked a girl on the front row what direction her house was from here. She points out the window and he goes, so, west? She responds, well, it's my east because I'm facing you. Should have stuck with west. A girl at school asked me if Wisconsin was the capital of Texas. She was confused cause she moved to TX from we. I said no, it's Austin and Wisconsin is a state not a city. She said ooh, thanks. We were high school freshmen. How? Just how? You live there, girl. I worked in a pizza restaurant when I was 16. They had a pizza they called a UFO pizza. It was just another slab of dough on top of a regular pizza, and it made it look like an orb, hence the name. One day a guy that worked there was writing down a telephone order, turns around and says, hey guys, how do you spell UFO? The owner looked mortified and just repeated UFO. He stared back in silence for a few moments before it hit him. For unknown reasons I'm pretty good at spelling and had 2 of my not so bright and very stoned friends actually call me on the phone to ask me how to spell a word they were having trouble with. The word was of, yeah. I'm working the IT help desk. Do you guys have any of those wireless internet cables? Blank stare ensued while I waited for her to understand the request. Then I said it's already plugged in. I worked at a cafe with white mugs. Crisp white china mugs. A woman ordered a dark roast coffee and a green tea to stay, and then when I slid them to her she looked saint them and then back at me with big Bambi eyes. Which is which? Can you name all the digits of pi? Confused, I recited a couple of number before trailing off. A friend beside me piped up, claiming that he could indeed name every single digit. Cue 2 minutes of him bullshitting his way through pi, making appropriate pauses to think or to do some quick mental math before continuing. All of this was done with the asker pointing her phone at him, convinced she's got the next viral hit. Needless to say, holding back my laughter was extremely difficult. That's easy. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Just mix them around and repeat them a bunch. Not the stupidest thing someone has asked, but when they were asked to name an inanimate object, They looked around the electronics store they were in and said, "I don't know, my finger." Like, dude, you picked the only animate object in the whole dang store. Work in retail. Guy comes in. He looks pretty average. Has a nice suit, nice glasses, well kept hair. Above average, I guess. He's looking for a particular stock pot that the store carries, and I bring him over to where they're kept. He begins to stare at the box. A deeply troubled look emerges slowly on his face as he places his hand on his chin. The box art depicts the pot in use, with some photoshopped water and a corn cob bobbing out of it. This is relevant. Trust me. After about 10 seconds of him staring perplexedly at the box, I ask, "Anything else I can help you with?" He replies, sounding confused, "So, this thing can only be used to cook corn?" I stared blankly at him. Was he fricking with me? His vexed demeanor told me no. He was indeed concerned about the product's potentially limited use. I honestly have no idea how long I was speechless. It felt like minutes. I couldn't speak. No one is that dumb, right? He eventually says, "It's okay, I'll figure it out from here," and continued to gaze at the box in hopes of gleaning the answers to the troubles he had encountered. My 20-something daughter asked why we never see squirrel eggs. Us parent types responded that's because squirrels are mammals and don't lay eggs like birds do. To which he responded, "Then show me an infant squirrel breastfeeding squirrel." This led to a conversation that was much longer than needed to be. You're gonna have a rough time if she ever learns about a platypus. While working as a butcher, I showed a deli clerk how to break down a whole chicken into pieces. I show her 2 breasts, 2 wings, 2 legs, 2 thighs. She looks at me and asks, "Which part does the turkey come from?" Because I am a dwarf, I get a lot of hilarious ones, but one of my favorites was, "Do you need to get a smaller engine for your car?" I really wish I could have seen your internal process that led to that question, lady. Surely, it's because being smaller means being lighter, making the engine give too much torque. You'd always wheelie when you hit the gas from a stop. Not me, but in 8th grade a foreign exchange student asked our 70-something-year-old, obese, grumpy math teacher if she was pregnant. She stared at him with a look on her face that said obviously not, and you know that, you little crap, and then the kid followed up with, "Well, because you are attractive enough," and everything. The whole class was silent. The teacher stared at him for a minute before turning off the overhead and gave us a short infomercial rundown on menopause, followed by, "So no, I am not pregnant." The whole time, even though she was talking to the class, she was staring at the kid while she talked about. That was an all-time record for most awkward math class in my book. He was trying to get in it. People visiting Alaska on a cruise would walk onto the dock, a dock protruding into the Pacific Ocean, then look up at the mountains and ask what elevation we were at. 1 foot. "Mom, you are standing on a dock which is at sea level." My experience on an Alaskan cruise had a lady complaining to the front desk that it was too cold outside for her kid to swim. I had a friend ask me why they aired the 10th anniversary memorial of 9/11 on the 11th. I asked him what he meant and he replied, "Why wouldn't they air it on the day it happened?" I again asked him WTF he was talking about. Again he responded, "Well, 9/11 happened on the 1st of September. Didn't it? The dumbass forgot what day 9/11 happened on." To this day, if I ever look down at my phone and see that the time is 9/11, I text him, "Never forget." Please never stop doing that to him. I dated a girl who thought butt stuff could get her pregnant by absorbing a cross. She also thought swallowing would make her pregnant. She must have thought you had Thor strength sperm. Not me, but it's such a dumb question I have to share. A classmate of mine in my sophomore year of high school asked my biology teacher something so dumb it's stuck with me for 10 years. She was clearly arguing with someone in the back of the class, and my teacher finally stopped them and asked what was going on. Now this girl was known to everyone as a bit of a dunce, but this was astounding. She looked at my teacher with a smug butt smirk and said, "Can you settle this argument for us since you're a science teacher? A biologist doesn't study biology, right? These guys keep trying to tell me they do." My teacher went wide-eyed and had to leave the room for what felt like 5 minutes. This girl already said a lot of really stupid stuff in the 6 years I went to school with her, but this was the one that always stuck out to me. A girlfriend of a friend of mine asked, "I wonder what it was like before color." This chick thought the world was black and white, not film. I wear glasses and remember when I was 18 being asked by a friend if when I took them off everything was black and white. For some reason they thought that as your eyesight got worse your ability to see color also disappeared. The scene. Meeting some new people in a college class. I introduce myself. Hi, I'm Love is Legally Blind. New classmate. Don't you mean different name that sounds a little like mine? Me. Number. He thinks it's time to double down. Are you sure? Why not? Me. Because that's not what my parents named me. Like what? Who corrects someone on their own name? I have a somewhat unusual name. People misspell it or mispronounce it all the time, but this was special. An administrator at school mistook me for another Asian classmate and refused to believe me when I corrected him. Yeah, dude. I really wanted to attend this dumb orientation twice, so I snuck back in under a different name. Not asked, but my mom straight up said we should drive to Puerto Rico. So, that was interesting. Had a lady insist that the lights outside that you don't plug in and don't have batteries were not solar lights. She got furious when she asked 2 more employees who both said solar lights. She then described the solar panel on top of those decorative garden lights and demanded a manager, who also told her solar lights. You should have sold her the geothermal ones. You know, the ones with a spike 5 kilometers long. I worked in a sub shop for many years. I had a guy look at me and ask me how big a 12-inch sub is. I just looked at him and said 12 inches. He just nodded and said okay, like I had just imparted some new and secret knowledge on him. A woman asked me if Gorilla Glue was made from real gorillas. I laughed at first, but she was serious. She told me she was vegan and wouldn't use the product if it was made with real gorillas. I've said this one before, but I'm a submarine pilot and I give tours of coral reef. This gets asked far more than I expected or ever wanted, but when we're sitting 100 feet down below in nothing but sand, people have asked, is that snow? Not really a question, more of a suggestion. Okay, so I'm a tall African American male, athletic build, and I like to wear peacoats. One night while leaving dinner I was walking to the car. A man was looking in the cab of his truck and the door was preventing me from opening the door to the passenger side of my friend's car. I said excuse me. He then offered me his wallet with his eyebrows raised. I looked at him in astonishment and said, I don't want your wallet. I want you to close your door. He did. I got in my friend's car, told them what happened. My friends now call me the Peacoat Bandit. Freaking Santa Barbara. Grandmother once was doing a crossword puzzle. Turns to me and asks, what is Edgar Allan Poe's middle name? She asked so earnestly that it made me think that Edgar Allan Poe had another middle name. After I haltingly replied Allan, she realized she had answered her own question. We still bring it up occasionally. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.